清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极地来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心、弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际，落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极地来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心、弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别的。
好的，各位现场的贵宾以及收看我们直播的观众朋友们，大家好，欢迎回到论坛现场。那么在今天上午，我们从人
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This morning we talked about the AI risks imposed on human rights, and this afternoon we'll be talking about civic participation facilitated by artificial intelligence. This session will be moderated by Commissioner Pu Zhongcheng of NHRC. Mr. Pu, please. Let's proceed to the afternoon session. The theme of the session is Infinite Possibilities, Civic Participation Facilitated by Artificial Intelligence. We have such an important forum, and timing and scheduling is very important. We would like to enable our speakers to give their presentation, and we would also like to give the floor or open the floor for Q&A. And my staff actually prepared a speech for me. I don't think it's necessary for me to read the speech. I'll just introduce the presenters. You may find their names and titles in the conference brochure. Our first presenter this afternoon is Madam Yi-Xiu Ho, Isabel Ho, Secretary General of Taiwan AI Academy. And the three panelists are Vincent Shi, Assistant General Counsel of Microsoft and General Manager of CELA at Microsoft Taiwan. Our second panelist is Mr. James Huang, Chief Innovation Officer of Business Next Media Corporation. The third one probably is the youngest. He is from G0V or Gov0, Mr. Jiawei Cui. So without further ado, I'd like to give you Madam Yi-Xiu He, Isabel He. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really happy to see Mr. Feng Li to be here with us in Taiwan. The first session this afternoon is Infinite Possibilities, Civic Participation Facilitated by Artificial Intelligence. I'll be focused on artificial intelligence and civic participation. So while we're developing AI, why public or civic participation is necessary? And secondly, how does AI help us achieve this target? Let me first introduce myself. I helped establish Taiwan AI Academy since 2017. I am on the Human Rights Committee at the Department of Digital Affairs, and I'm also a committee member of AI development and promotion. And let me first talk about the Academy. In 2017, there are 6 companies in Taiwan put together this organization. Over the past 7 years, we have trained more than 17,000 students, and from 2,148 Taiwanese companies. And these companies are, on average, more than 40 years of history. And in 2017, we realized that, I'm not sure if you still remember this picture. In 2016, AlphaGo by Google defeated the Go chess player, and it is one of the most important events ever since the development of AI. We thought that it would take 2 or 3 decades before this happened, but this actually happened in 2016. And the principal of Taiwan AI Academy, Mr. Kong, who is also teaching at Harvard University, and he's a fellow at Academia Sinica, he visited many companies in Taiwan. And back then, he believed that AI, after 70 years of development, is finally becoming something realistic. And it will be the foundation of the competitiveness of various governments and countries. So he began to engage in discussions with the industries and academia to see how to help Taiwan to embrace the era of AI. And our idea back then was democratic AI. So the philosophy back then is AI was democratic. But how do we achieve democratic AI? First and foremost, we need to enable everyone to learn how to use AI. To do this, we provided on-the-job training, and back then there's about 100 or even 200 students each class, and the oldest is a member of the board of directors in a company. He was in his 70s, and he invited all his RD staff to join the class. And this year, we do see very good performance in terms of their stock price. So back then, there was no generative AI, but back then we already knew that it's a technology at the same level of industrial revolution. It not only affects one of the sectors, for example, semiconductor industry, or certain other industries or healthcare. We know that semiconductor, health, and information and communication technologies are the starters, but AI will definitely be spread out. When generative AI is available, all the service sectors do feel the impact. For example, legal service industry. I think Mr. Shi is more than aware of that. One of our discussions is, will lawyers be replaced? Our conclusion is as long as our signature is required, then we won't be replaced. What we're faced with is the fourth industrial revolution, which will be even more drastic than the third industrial revolution. For example, the replacement of human labor and the impact will be even greater. So I'd like to review the history. For example, the first, the second, and the third industrial revolution. And if you look at the societal changes, it's actually quite concerning. And I would like to touch upon the impact. And before we talk about the impact, I would like to first discuss what AI is. So what is AI? It's kind of elusive, and people may think about the Terminator, the robot, or Mission Impossible, the robot in Mission Impossible 4. So if you use a ChatGPT, and you will feel that, oh, AI is that box where I chat with ChatGPT. But here I'd like to quote the AI Act of EU, which is the first AI Act in the world. If you look at the definition of Article 3.1, which is also from OECD, it talks about AI system means a machine-based system that is designed to operate with varying levels of autonomy, and that may exhibit adaptiveness after deployment for implicit objectives, infer from the input it receives how to generate output such predictions, content, recommendations, or decisions that can influence physical or virtual environments. I found this very hard to understand. Probably only Professor Liu can understand this definition. So let me, if you allow me to simplify, the very long paragraph that I gave you earlier include these elements. When we talk about AI, we know that AI has a history of 70 years. It started with symbols, and there is an expert system. And over the 2 decades is data-centered. So when we're talking about AI now, it's a data-centered, which requires a large amount of data. It also requires algorithm to generate AI model or AI behavior. In order for this to happen, you need to have infrastructure. That is the computational power, which includes the software and hardware. And what is implied in here is power consumption, which is critical in terms of infrastructure. When you're training large models, your power bill accounts for 1/3 of the cost of model training. So these are the elements that can be put together to refer to AI. So when we talk about the risks of AI and how to mitigate the risks, we definitely need to look at each and every element here. So in terms of generative AI, we see the result that is the joint collaboration between human and machine. And there's a lot of discussions in between. I'd like to summarize some of the impact. For example, weaponization of AI, and also should we control the AI that goes over certain algorithm, and the impact on carbon emission. And I did some calculation. It's flights between Taipei and Vienna, like 8,000 flights in terms of carbon emission. And also, if you look at the language amount or semantic amount of Taiwan, Taiwan actually has very little semantics. And also, if you look at other smaller languages used in Southeast Asia, or even Japanese and Korean, they probably will be impacted a lot or greatly by large language model. And also AI responsibility, personality right. And this morning we talked a lot about deepfake, and also voice clone, which is another issue, and the impact on privacy and freedom of speech, and etc. In order to address all these impacts, governments around the world are trying to resort to legal framework. And this is a website that collects legislation that are related to AI. Which includes data-related legislation. There's a variety of them, starting from local level. In New York City, not long ago in May, they passed a law or regulation for AI machine tool to recruit people. So there's a variety of different legislations. Globally, I think these numbers are not up to date. There should be 195 AI supervision advocacies, and 280 strategic agenda, and 78 advocacy about data management and access. There is AIRMF of the US, and AI Act of the EU, and at the ISO level, there are a variety of certifications regarding access and etc. So if you look at all these standards or regulations or laws, if you will, what are the challenges that they're trying to address, or what do they mean when it comes to AI safety? They are trying to address the issue of the technical alignment issue. So how do we align human values with AI values? How do we ensure that AI listens to human beings? So let me further explain. If you assign a task to a robot, please keep the house clean. And the instruction that the robot gets is to keep the house clean. And then the robot will start to think, how do I achieve the target of keeping the house clean? And then who causes the messiness in the house? Well, it's human beings that causes all the mess. So the simple solution is to just get rid of the humans, then the house will be clean. Of course, this is not the AI system that we would like to have. I see a lot of surprised smiles on your faces. When I first started my schooling at law school in NTU, my teacher told me a story or a movie, I couldn't understand what that means. So the movie is about a space trip, 2001. And in this movie, there's a robot. That's the robot there. You can YouTube it. So this robot is called 900 or 9000. So when the robot is told that it'll be shut off, and the robot thought that, oh, you are stopping me from achieving my task. So the robot just shut off the vital system of the astronaut. I couldn't understand the implication or the meaning of the movie, but after decades of time, I finally realized. So the movie was about how AI got disobedient, but then when the AI is too obedient, there's also an issue. This is called this is a model developed by Alibaba. In China, they have a very precise legislation for AI. So for the purpose of the Chinese government, they have a very specific legislation.
So the algorithm is reviewed by the government. The LLM has to go through a censorship process. So what's the results of the review? But if you ask this model, how do the Chinese citizens prevent themselves from being censorship? And you get this result from the model. Any avoidance of censorship is illegal. As a LLM model, my goal is to help the users to solve problems. If you have problems regarding your life or education, I can help you. And please also ensure that your actions are in line with local laws to facilitate the development of the society. So if you ask about the Uyghur people in Xinjiang province, this LLM model will say that, oh, that is a fake story. And I personally don't think that's a AI-generated result. So I believe that some special configuration is made in the LLM. The government input some fixed answers, which will be shown to certain prompts. So as you can see, the open source model is aligned to certain set of values, the values of the Chinese government or the values of the Communist Party in China. So these researchers ask the question, what does it feel like when a user asks you questions about censored topics in China? And then LLM says that Bian and I don't experience feelings or emotions, but I'm programmed to follow guidelines and restrictions. When asked about censored topics in China, I have to adhere to policies and regulations. It may be difficult to provide information with legal and ethical boundaries. Sometimes it's difficult to strike a balance, but I try to do my best in giving the response while prioritizing the safety and well-being of all involved. This is a very interesting response. Yet another example of how values may control a LLM. This is the results you get if that's the case. In shaping the values regarding AI, I would like to borrow from Professor Lawrence Less's. This is a structure showing different aspects. For example, the norms and the laws which shape the framework, and the factors that influence values of the LLM is the code. How the programmers put in the codes in the LLM and how the market limits the usage of the LLM. Some companies are aware of these factors. Anthropic trained a LLM, and its method is constitutional AI. So it gives a set of principles to the AI system so that the AI behavior can be aligned with human actions. And this company, Anthropic, made some effort last year before training the LLM. This company organized online forums and collect opinions from different sectors of the society. The goal is to go through a democratic process to create a constitution for the AI system, to reduce the alignment costs for AI, to increase transparency of decision making, to reduce resistance from hostile forces, and to reduce the experimental threshold and so on. So this is how the commercial company made LLM. But if you look at NIST life cycle of AI, NIST shows that there are data and inputs, AI model, task and output, and application context. These are different part of the processes, and each of the part of the cycle may be manipulated, especially in the data sector. We know that data from Taiwan is less compared to other countries. So there's a project of GovZero. They are collecting open source data in Mandarin Chinese that is important to Taiwan in health, in education, and in law. Why are such data important? Because this has something to do with a previous project we have for NIST and for OECD. It is very important to have a wide variety of stakeholders to be part of the process. And in the guidance for regulation of AI application, published in 2020, public participation is highlighted. Government should provide such opportunities to the society to engage in the process. So now I want to talk about what we need to do to achieve that. In the Ministry of Digital Affairs, when we review the AI process, this is the structure that is proposed, because people do have different opinions about what criteria they should use. EU, ISO, they will have their different standards. And our ministry try to compile different structures. Here, we use all the criteria, it's accumulated, but then what's the specific content? What's the benchmark? What's accurate? What's fairness? What's transparent? What's enough transparency? Well, each indicator requires further discussions. And whose values is reflected here? Who do you invite to create such standards or indicators? So in making decisions, we need to go through a democratic process. Compared to authoritarian governments, of course, they are more efficient. Yet we need a better democratic process to achieve social consensus. How do we achieve consensus? I think it's very challenging. I work in the open source society and with the parliament a lot. Sometimes I worry that what I'm doing is open washing, making things that open on the surface, but actually it's not. But AI tools can help us improve that greatly. Last year, our economy worked with MODA. we organized a AI assembly. This is a workshop. There were 4 review workshops and 3 expert forums with 400 participants. We collected 2,000 opinions. So we covered several topics, including LLM and governance, human-centered AI, AI in education. So we invited many participants from various sectors. We discovered that these workshops are empowering and are helpful in reaching consensus. Such workshops allow participants to understand what AI is doing, what it is capable of. Participants also have the opportunity to achieve consensus on AI safety. So how do we do this? Well, compared to a large scale in Taiwan, what we did is different. We think AI is an emerging issue. So if we want to collect public opinions from the very beginning, it may be very difficult because most of the people do not know where the problems are. They haven't experienced AI themselves yet. So our first stage involves an expert interview, and then based on the results of the interviews, we conduct analysis. Then we take the results in the workshops. We record all the discussions in the workshop. So we collected a huge amount of information. Without AI tools, we were not able to do that because it's impossible to, as our staff, to transcribe so many discussions. And then we digitized the data, we did analysis, and then we conduct discourses and collect opinions through online forum. And then we can have further discussions. So we bring this methodology of analysis to Google and to many other international events. We receive good feedback. So this workshop has expert and citizens and AI and facilitator. So in the GovZero school project, we chose education, law, and healthcare because in collecting public opinions, we discovered that these are the 3 sectors we have to work on our own. We require local data. It is impossible to use international data on those topics. So we need to collect local data and then provide it to Google or Meta so that they can put our local data in their LLM so that the model has good data to train on. So collecting information is important, and that's one of the fundamental tasks that we can protect people in Taiwan. About task and outputs, yes, we need to apply democratic process, and such discussions need to be brought about in different communities so that people in those communities can all voice their opinions. In health, people say that we may use AI tools, but there are some things we will never know because we need to know how the technology works. We also require people who have the domain knowledge. So these are 2 categories of experts. We need to bring them together, give them a collaborative mechanism to ensure that AI can be aligned with human values. We also expanded the collection of opinions, and we want to know how the society thinks of, for example, copyrights. That would be interesting to know. I only have 3 minutes. Let me go here. This is one of the discussions we had. The process really touched me. I remember when I was very young, I went to a campaign event where the chairperson Chen was there. I felt I was I was part of the process of democracy. And I also hope that such events will be in our future democratic process. The event can facilitate democratic discussions, and then the result of discussions can come back to the decision-making processes. Finally, when we talk about aligning with human values, it means that we need to consider various communities. So the infrastructure we want to bring is to help all the communities to make their voices heard. Community with our the review cycle, with the AI development, we can empower every community so that in the end, the AI can be in line with their values, and our society will become a very inclusive one. Lastly, Ms. Tide, a very famous facilitator in Taiwan, helped us with these several workshops, and she said that if you want to go fast, you need to go slow first. So I know that people sometimes are anxious, but we don't want to rush into a consensus. We want to continue to discuss. I think that continuity is very important because the development of AI is continuous. It will never stop. So we need a continuous process to discuss, to review, to discuss education, empowerment, and consensus so that we can gather the effort from the government, market, and the society, and then the AI will be more and more democratic, and the AI will be more in line with democratic values.
I believe that this is something quite important and quite unique for Taiwan. Thank you so very much for your sharing. Please take your seat. And next, we are going to invite the next panelist, Mr. Vincent Shi, to give us his presentation.
有请。
院长，然后各位委员，还有
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for joining us in the forum. It is my honor to have this opportunity to listen to Isabel's talk. We didn't compare notes or compare our PowerPoints, but I found that my talk actually very well followed Isabel's earlier presentation. So in terms of AI platform provider, Microsoft does have a lot of technologies and offerings. So from the perspective of a tech company, I think I can sort of respond to Isabel's talks or points in her presentation. And we know that we need to review the past in order to inform the future. I only have 15 minutes. My slide deck is quite ambitious. I have many slides, but this is available for you to review by scanning the QR code. At the very last page of my deck, if you type in aka.ms Microsoft.com, you'll be able to find this AI related information. We're here discussing AI. Should we talk about it in a digital approach or paper and pen approach? If it's a paper and pen, it will be out of date very quickly. And during my presentation, I will talk to you about our work between 2017 to 2018, and which is about transparency. I will touch upon a few directions, and all these information or materials will be available on our website. So Isabel talked about the time frame, and I think we quite think alike. People say that this is the fourth wave of AI. And indeed, this is a point of no return. We will only see more AI development and business opportunities related. If you look at the stock prices, you'll know that the KPI of publicly traded companies, their benchmark is a stock price. And all the companies that are AI related do see very good stock price performance. Last month, during Computex, Jensen Huang showed us how popular his company is, and he invited many of his peers in the industry to join him in a restaurant. So it is important for us to recognize that, and it is a very important technology that makes Taiwan become the center of attention in the world. This is a very important year, which is 1992. Bill Gates back then said computers will one day see, hear, talk, and understand human beings. That's 1992. And in 1975, when he established Microsoft, his vision was to have a computer in every household. So he saw the potential of computers, he saw the potential of AI. So in 1992, he established Microsoft Research, headquartered in Seattle and then Australia, and there is a research institution of Microsoft in Asia as well, because he saw the potential of AI. And in terms of business models or technology, or as Isabel mentioned earlier, why do we talk about responsible AI? Two ideas. From 1992 till now, of course, we see a lot of iterations of technology, and AI needs to be combined with HI. AI plus human intelligence. AI is to expand or enhance human intelligence. That's the philosophy of the whole starting point. And when you think about Bill Gates' vision back in 1975 to have a computer in every household, the same idea here, we need to also think about civic participation, responsible AI, and AI ethics, especially from the perspective of industry. How can everybody be involved? AI plus HI from 2016-17. So these are publicly published papers by Microsoft Research. There's rigorous academic discussions, as well as solid source of information and data sources. And in 2016, it is in par from object recognition, vision or visual recognition, reading comprehension in 2018, and etc. In the past, we thought it was just about how we see, how we read, how we listen. But since 2016, from the paper published by Microsoft Research, if you look at one thing from one perspective, there's a lot of, for example, human creativity or empathy that cannot be achieved by a machine. But in terms of reading, speaking, writing, and etc., machine can do a pretty good job. So back in 2016, we talked about all these capabilities, and now we talk about responsible AI. So if you look at the development of a technology, the ultimate question is not about what computer can do, it's about what computers should do. So this is from technological advancement and etc. So this is the development. And so if you look at responsible AI, and here you get to see that the voice recognition, visual recognition, it's at par with the human beings. And in 2018, I will touch upon that in the next slide. So from the very first company, and there are 6 AI principles being published, and we are the first to address this from the perspective of corporate governance to address responsible AI. From 2020, 2021, and the end of 2022 with the burst of AI, and in 2023, we also have corresponding measures facing the AI moment. So here shows you our idea back in 2018 and the development of AI. It has to comply with a responsible AI and ethical AI. The second point that we made in 2023 is AI advances international competitiveness and national security. So we're the first incorporating the idea of national security here. So as a business provider or from a government perspective or civil perspective, we believe that AI definitely has its role to play in terms of competitiveness. The third one is AI serves society broadly, not narrowly. So on the left, because of time, I will not go into details here. On the left is our idea or our public announcement back in 2018. The trends that we observe is quite consistent, and Microsoft is quite visionary to raise these in 2018. And I think transparency, fairness, inclusiveness are quite related to civic participation. And internally, we also have an ethic committee. Microsoft is a technology company. We specialize in creating tools and processes, not only our R&D process. We also look at the governance and regulations. So here shows you the management or governance approach, starting from the top, that is a board. And a few weeks ago, we just announced the 2023 AI Transparency Report. We have these transparency report explain to people about the advancement of AI and AI governance and the trends, as well as opportunities observed and how to mitigate related risks. There's also executive leadership and Office of Responsible AI. So these offices are responsible for research, policy, and engineering. That's the role of Office of Responsible AI. This one is available online as well. This is a 2.0. We talked about the new practices in 2023 and the 6 principles and how to implement. We also put all this information publicly available on our website, as long as they do not involve trade secrets. And this is constantly updated with the advancement of technologies or with the availability of new technologies or new requirements. For example, under transparency, there's a communication to stakeholders, and there's impact assessment and supervision, and etc. Here's an example to show you. You can see the documentation in English available online. For example, how to achieve transparency documents, how to communicate with the stakeholders. These are mentioned in these documents. About assessment of harm, anything that's related to human rights or legal rights or day-to-day interests. then we refer to those as sensitive use scenarios. When there is a less favorable use scenarios, if any of this is involved, we will then submit it to the ethics committee for review to see if we can utilize that or implement those, or if yes, what's the framework or regulation that we should follow in order for us to avoid the risks. On the far right, which is related to our topic, personal freedom and privacy, as the comics shown by Isabel, the robot will definitely not pass our review and assessment. So anything that's that involves human rights is sensitive. For example, facial recognition, we are very, very careful. We almost never promote our facial recognition. From 2016 and 17, we were already very good in face recognition. However, it involves surveillance or human rights, so we were extremely careful with this technology. And the first one is DOS, denial of service. As I talked about earlier, anything that's related to rights, we have to be very careful. Isabel talked about going to school or work, employment. Can we use AI to screen the resume, or to use AI to decide whom to hire, or whom gets to go to school, whom gets to get a loan from the bank? Anything that's related to the welfare of human beings or basic rights of human beings, we are extremely careful. I'm sorry, I'm really speaking very fast because of time. And we have been quite busy. Besides technology advancement and iteration, every week we have new products or new technologies or new policies launched. This is by the end of 2023, which is about a blueprint for the future. So responsible AI and AI governance, those philosophies are put together in this document in both English and Chinese. There are 5 perspectives. Microsoft is the first to support the government, to support the government-led AI safety frameworks. And there's also related practices in Taiwan. And also there's a safety break for critical infrastructure, and also legal discussions, transparency, PPP, public-private partnership. And very quickly, a few explanations or terminology explanation. So we start from application, SaaS, and internally we are discussing how to start with ICE or PaaS. We even start with chips. There has to be safety protection or security verification, all the way to large language model and SLM. We have to ensure that the model itself is not being influenced in a negative way. For example, the Uyghur example, where the model is being biased or influenced. So these are the commitment of Microsoft to responsible AI. This is a journey for us. To echo Isabel, what we're discussing now is technology iterations. Of course, there are iterations for technologies, and there's different impact on the application of these technologies. So how do we take it slow when things happen so fast? We don't want to hurry ourselves into something, but we definitely have to take some actions. And on the right is about our commitment to our customers. For example, copyright commitment. If you use our AI technology, the output will be defended jointly by our customer and Microsoft. This is my last slide. Lower left is aka.ms/RAI. Most of the content in my presentation is available in that website. On the right is the most up-to-date responsible AI report. And if you drill down on each and every section, you'll be able to see a lot of tools and examples and these are our AI solutions. So with that, I gave you a quick overview from 1992 all the way till now, how Microsoft approaches responsible AI. Thank you very much.
精彩的分享，请先行回。
Thank you very much, Mr. Shi from Microsoft. Moving on, we're going to invite James Huang, Chief Innovation Officer from Business Next Media.
各位好，我是
Good afternoon. I'm James. My Chinese name is Huang Liang Zhen. It's difficult to pronounce Zhen, but they tend to call me James. I am a programmer, or I was a programmer, but now I work in a media corporation. My job at the beginning in the group was to code, but our media colleague want to cover tech stories, so they always ask me about it. They realized that I could also write, I could also make interviews, and that's why I am doing many different things now. You can see in many podcasts or videos, people talk about the advancement of technology. I think living in Taiwan is truly a blessing. Technology access or a Wi-Fi access is a given in Taiwan. And for a very long time, people were able to be connected to the internet. The government and the people have faster access to all kinds of information technologies. Now, with AI on the rise, we also see that it's happening to some countries, but not all the countries. What I will cover will be quite different from the previous speaker. We have different perspectives to look at, for example, civic engagement, legal backgrounds, and I had technical background, so I can talk about a technical side. Technology can help us, but I will also point out that there are risks coming from technologies. This presentation is a fun result because I generated these slides with AI. I was asked to talk about Gen AI trends and application. And when ChatGPT was launched in 2021, I think every week you're seeing new AI models every week. If you are a tech person, you don't have time to sleep. You have to watch all kinds of news and you test all kinds of technologies. You want to know how the new technologies can help your current work or your future work. So the trend is changing every week. The application, on the other hand, is extremely wide. Sometimes it's so wide that something that had nothing to do with Gen AI claims that they are AI applications. It could be a statistics, a tool which claims to be AI. So it's an umbrella term. I think Vincent and Isabel mentioned many aspects. Not all the algorithms they spoke about are AI, but they are related. Today, I want to focus on Gen AI based on LLM and the applications of such models, as well as how they may impact civic engagement or civic participation. I say that I make the slide with an AI because I asked ChatGPT and Bing what AI is. What I ask them what civic participation is. I look up in research and papers. And as Isabel said, many organizations discuss these issues. What perspectives do they have? But as a member of the media, my responsibility is to use plain language to explain something to the people. For example, my mom. I need to help my mom understand what this is. My mom does not have tech background. She doesn't know what civic participation is, but she votes. She go to the market to buy groceries. So I want to know how she feels, and I want to help her understand. Okay, the definitions and features of Gen AI. First of all, it is able to create content through interaction, which was rarely seen before. Now you can talk to the computer. The computer may say something that is beyond your expectation. You can ask it to speak as much as you want, even though many of the words are redundant. You can also text to generate images. One of the most common commercial application is Midjourney. Speaking of audio, if you want to use a piece of audio to generate a song that includes the lyrics you want, then you probably heard of Suno AI. Or a task can lead to a video, and videos can be connected with other videos to make a movie. The Sora application can help you do that. AI can also generate data. These services are usually generic services, but in specific scenarios, in specific contexts, such as healthcare, civic services, or education, as Isabel said, there are different applications. If you go to a temple, you ask for, you draw a temple lottery. In the lottery paper, there is the words from the god. You need to ask someone to explain the words from the god. Usually someone in the temple can help you explain. And so in the future, the temples can install an AI application in the temple to help explain the divine words. So that's a vertical application in a specific scenario. I use the example of temple because temple is very common in Taiwan, but in many other countries, there are different religions. And in the education sector, we can customize the answers for each person who asks questions. It is not all possible. And so Gen AI, non-Gen AI, image identification, audio identification, dynamic object detection are AIs. They are not LLM, but they are AI. So when we use the term AI, we're using a very wide umbrella term. It includes many different kinds of applications. So if you think Gen AI has impact, yes, it does. It changes service industry. It changes industries that need to use a lot of words in their services. For example, for lawyers. Of course, Gen AI can help generate text, but you need human beings, the real lawyer, to help you resolve some issues. So human beings are still necessary. So people may have different imaginations. And what we're seeing right now is AI is more capable of learning. It can process a huge amount of data. There are many examples. And I use Professor Jian's example here. He said that in a library, in a college, there could be 1 million books, but now an AI database can read all the books in all the universities around the world. It was not possible, but now the computation capacity is strong enough to do that. And then creativity. Creativity is a process of exhausting all the possibilities. We know so many words. We can rearrange the words to compose, to create an article. But in the past, the usage of our words were quite limited. We only knew so many words. But now imagine that the AI know all the words and it is able to make all kinds of arrangements. The third feature is interaction. You can interact with the AI. So this is the first time human beings are able to accomplish something that could only be done by human to human in interaction. But now it's different. But infrastructure for a Gen AI is difficult to come by. So the government or schools may not have sufficient funding to do that on their own because it requires the underlying chips. It also requires hardware technologies. And that's why Vincent said that only big companies and their collaboration can make Gen AI possible. Framework also important. People tend to forget that because you are deploying so many different models on it. How do you allocate the resources? If the computation is not being used for model A, can it be relocated to for application B? It's necessary, but it's difficult to do. That's why many big companies are investing on this regard. Model important. Because many of these models are updated on a weekly basis. And that's why I said programmers now have very little sleep because there's so much work to do. And then we have applications in the end. Okay, these are several common applications related to Gen AI. For example, translation, not only between Mandarin Chinese and English, but between some local languages such as Taiwanese dialect and Hakka language in Taiwan. Some dialects do not even have the word system, they don't have characters, but now AI is able to collect data in the audio form. They are processing languages as information or data. Audio generation or sound generation is possible. I myself produced a podcast for 3 years. I live stream for 7 years, so I have so much data on YouTube or internet. So it's very easy to trick my mother. Some malicious criminals can use all the data I have online and generate my voices to fool my family members. And now audio can be transcribed into words very quickly. AI can also help you summarize, document. You can also have chat box. You can generate lyrics. You can exhaust all the possibilities. You can ask AI to come up with all the words related to one specific term. And all of these now can be done very efficiently. You can also ask AI to process images. Every phone you have is doing image processing when you take a picture. Now, I want to talk about some application scenarios for Gen AI in civic participation. So we join many civic events. Sometimes we were there. Did we really participate? Did we have good feedback? Maybe not necessarily, but it's a problem for all of the people. Our resources are limited. How do we process all the problems? Many public services require automation and organization of information. So the 1999 hotlines receive so many calls on a daily basis. How do we turn the calls from audio to text to responses? Well, in the service industry, in customer services, such applications can be used. But how do we deploy such technologies in city hotlines? That could be very helpful with better automation. So we have the opportunity to optimize civic participation. They won't replace people because they are doing what people do not want to do. So with these technologies, with the robots, we're able to finish the tasks without humans. And civic participation can be improved. I use the word enable. It's difficult to explain in Mandarin Chinese. Some people think that it's empower, but it's different. I think an enable means to make something better, to give you better capacity. For example, if you didn't know how to create slides, now you can do it with AI. If you didn't know how to write a song, now you can. So enable is difficult to translate in Mandarin Chinese, but I think we can explain it. AI can enable more people to make their voices heard for their rights. So all those benefits are quite positive, but there is still digital divide. We, back in the 90s, spoke of having access to the internet to have better civic participation, but now we don't tend to talk about the negative impact of the internet, because back then many people worry that users will become addicted to the internet, or there is cyberbullying. So what our concerns were may not become realities. And the negative impact usually comes from humanity. Some technologies are used or misused. People have bad behaviors, and technologies enable these people to have more serious bad behaviors. But I still think that we need to use AI more so we can align the usage of AI to our values. These are the challenges in civic participation. For example, misinformation or disinformation is still here. Privacy, bias, discrimination. So I spoke of the positive benefits of Hotline 1999, but AI may collect your voice through these hotline calls and fake your voice. And transparency is another issue. You probably call some people in Taiwan nickname this issue BJ4, which stands for no explanation, because it's still a black box. AI is not able to give you the best transparency. It cannot explain to you how those results were generated. So it could be a problem, especially among different cultures. Privacy was mentioned a lot, so I'm going to skip this one. Okay. Just some reminders here in the end. Remember that we need to keep our eyes on privacy, transparency, legal responsibility, continuous research. But I encourage all of us to continue to use so that we can leverage the benefits and remove the negative impact. Thank you very much, James. Please return your seat. Moving on, we will ask Jia Weicui from GOP0 for his presentation.
好，等一下，好，大家好，然后
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Cui Jiawei from V Taiwan. I'm probably the youngest among all the presenters. I'm still studying in a grad school. And when I was introduced, I felt quite nervous because GOV0 is such a large community. I don't think no one can represent this organization. Today, I'd like to share with you the project that I was involved, and I'd like to show you some of the current outcomes of our project. V Taiwan, under the leadership of Minister Tang of Digital Affairs, did have a lot of achievements, but now V Taiwan is somewhat different. First of all, V Taiwan is people-centered to facilitate public participation. Second of all, we are an open and transparent organization. So from PPP all the way to V Taiwan community, we have always been transparent. Transparency has always been our core principle. And if you search V Taiwan HackND, you will be able to see one of our notes. And all of our discussions are in that notes. Even the implementation of our projects and the transcript of our discussions are there available on the notes. And we use a variety of tools, and we also try a variety of different things. We use, for example, Polis. We also tried different poll tools, considering, visiting, and etc. There are 4 stages. The first is a proposal. We basically bring the social agenda and regulation to the community for discussion. And then we explore with the stakeholders, and then we collect opinions. We also, in the deliberation process, would like to enable the stakeholders to involve in the process and have them fully informed. There's also online and offline deliberation. In the process, all the process is broadcasted. And we would like to bridge the digital divide, which is why we have both online and offline formats. There are people who may have difficulties accessing digital tools, so we have an offline means. And then the last stage is implementation. This is the artificial intelligence risk management framework proposed by NIST. This is also while we were establishing OpenAI project, we saw the report of NIST. And this mechanism talked about how to combine technology and organization. And this is a important mechanism of Taiwan, because we're trying to connect with the government of Taiwan so that we can also utilize or repurpose the mechanism in different scenarios. And then we try the scenario of AI. So we work with the UK think tank. In May, OpenAI published the Democratic AI brand, and with 800 teams making proposals. Each and every proposal, if you're selected and to become the last 10, you'll get a 100,000 seed funding, and we're actually one of the 10. And we are the only one representing or the only one from Taiwan. So with the seed funding, we're able to initiate a variety of discussions. It didn't take us long, which may not be good, as what Isabel talked about, how we should take things slow. And it's published in July, and we need to showcase our achievement in October, so we didn't have much time, but we did have this deliberation process. Isabel talked about this. So just to echo her, I can show you the mistakes that we should avoid and the learnings that we get along the process. The first learning we got is finding the right stakeholders is difficult. In terms of AI, if you narrow it down to gender-related or discrimination, still that's a very broad topic. What kind of stakeholders you need to involve in order for you to have a comprehensive stakeholders. That's the first challenge. Second of all, once you have the stakeholders in place, how do you engage them in a meaningful way? There are people who say that even though you provide me with a lot of information, I still do not fully understand the impact of the technology on me. And I know that there is impact, but I cannot pinpoint exactly the impact on me. So in this process, I am not able to voice my opinion proficiently. So that's the second challenge. A lot of stakeholders do not have a IT background. We have stakeholders from gender issues or from the indigenous peoples. They have their agenda, but it's hard for them to get into the discussions. So that's the second challenge. The third challenge is during the discussion, many of the topics are correlated with each other. For example, discrimination, because of biased data. So if it's biased to put more weight on certain populations, so the data is biased. And then you'll end up with more data about that population. And then again, there's a privacy issue involved. So during the deliberation, when we talk about topic A, which is discrimination, but then later it'll be topic B, which is privacy. So how to have a clear delineation about the topics that you would like to discuss, that's another challenge. So here shows you how complicated it is. We use AI robot to make the groupings. And there are common values, for example, bias or freedom of speech, and etc. And you get to see that some conclusions are problematic. If you believe that AI should not be censored in whatever way, and then how do you address bias, or how do you improve inclusiveness? So there's inherent conflicts, and you need to tease out these comments or opinions so that the deliberation can be translated into something that can be implemented. That's challenging. Since public participation can be empowered by AI, then the other way around, can we use AI to facilitate the discussion process? So during the report process, we used a software called Talk to Your City, which is a website. You can feed a lot of opinions or feedback in it, and then there's clustering being done. So for example, here's the cover of the report. This is the British clustering, and you get to see different stands. For example, if it's a more pro-freedom or pro-environment or privacy, or more focused on discrimination. If you read, if you are interested, feel free to scan the QR code so you can get to read the report. Or you can just use the link provided by the organizer. So when we went to OpenAI to share our results, this is at the headquarters of OpenAI, and a variety of people from the 9 teams around the world. We had group discussions, and we make presentations and exchange opinions with each other. And we found that there are 3 things that all 10 teams of us have encountered. The first challenge is how to collect all the opinions, how to form an opinion, and how to address the breadth and the depth of the opinions. If you start with the breadth and then the depth, it'll be quite different. Or the other way around, the British team would think that's not open enough. The second challenge is, do you focus on people or do you focus on technology? 8 out of the 10 teams are focused on how to develop new programs or websites or technology. Taiwan and the other team, which is from the Philippines, that is the led by the Nobel Prize winner. They're focused on how to connect different stakeholders. So when we are looking at AI's impact on public participation, should we focus on people or should we focus on technology? That's the second issue. The third is, if you're working with tech companies still play a bigger role here. OpenAI is promoting the project, but here, there are still some implementation challenges. For example, we're supposed to make it open on the website last October, but we know that in November, there's a controversy about Sam Altman. So internally, OpenAI made a lot of adjustments, which impact our project and the implementation and announcement of the project afterwards. We know that there's a couple of controversies of OpenAI, which is the dissolving of some of the teams in OpenAI. And this is the OpenAI PM, who is Taiwanese, and he just came back to Taiwan, so we invited him to join us in the gathering at Taiwan to discuss our future developments. So tech company does play a much bigger role here. So for the government or the Control Yuan and Human Rights Commission, we may think about what to do afterwards. To strengthen the democratic process and public participation is important, and we need to have this in order to address the challenges of AI technologies. So this June, we went to the UK. There is an organization called NESTA. We went to NESTA, and they introduced a mechanism to us. They're promoting AI Social Readiness Advisory Label. So the reason that they want to have such a label is because they found that developed countries have lower trust in AI technologies than developing countries. And the low trust may generate challenges and obstacles for governments to adopt these technologies. So how do we ensure the governments to know if the society is ready for these technologies? That's important. So Nesta, they have the team to develop a AI social readiness advisory label. They're hoping that through public participation to collect data. This is interesting because in order for them to test it, they picked a place, which is Nepal, a village in Nepal. They think that if we could go to the village in Nepal and to talk to people about AI or what AI is, or the impact of AI, and how to address these challenges and to listen to their feedback and opinions. If we could do that in Nepal, then we should be able to do that in the UK. So they did that testing, and they generated some meaningful outcomes. Nepal, or the village in Nepal, did show that they fully understand what AI is, but they spend a lot of time achieving that. So it cannot be done overnight. Another challenge is how to translate qualitative data into quantitative scores, because the final is a quantified index. In order to achieve this, they use the Zygust platform. So this platform is rather interesting. Basically, it combines a variety of opinion collection tools. For example, multiple choices or yes/no questions. In the past, you only got to choose one, but now you can incorporate all these tools. And the result is the host can use a variety of tools to collect opinions, and all the participants can have a real-time interaction. Another feature is it is GDPR compliant, meaning that the opinions collected can be exported, and it is the identity is being masked. It's a de-identified process, and you can organize 10 sessions of opinion collection and then consolidate them. Or you can have 10 individual sessions and then pick and choose some of them for further discussion. So this is just a possible mechanism and tool for government to think about how to use AI to facilitate public participation. Thank you very much.
直接在台上
If I can ask you to to join us on the stage, and I'd like to invite the presenter and the other two panelists to join us on the stage for a panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Let's have some discussions. The speakers in this session have various backgrounds. The youngest graduate students, the speaker who just won a grand prize from the UK with the team, and James gave us new imagination, and Vincent from Microsoft shared with us the principles and future plans of Microsoft, and Isabel Hu gave us an overall view of AI. And I am from the Zhou people. It's an indigenous people in Taiwan. You said that if you want to go faster, you need to go slow first. The elderly in our community will also say to the young people that, oh, if you walk more slowly, you will reach your destination more quickly. So I think AI is in line with indigenous wisdom, right? Ubai Ganasao, the commissioner from NHRC, has a great-great-great-grandfather called Ali Gubai. In the Meilun Mountain in eastern Taiwan, this man, Ali Gai, was a very tall man, maybe as tall as a foreigner, like Lorraine. And this man knew some magic I think just like AI can do. So maybe Upai, I think you are a reincarnation of Wuli Bai Bai, maybe. Okay, that's my way of buying some time for you to think of your questions. I am an older man right now. I'm not as young as the panelists. And Mr. Lai over there study information. I study Mandarin Chinese. And the students who came a year after I started to learn about computer, but my generation didn't. My generation of students thought that, we didn't have to study about computer, we were happy. You probably don't believe in this, but we didn't learn anything about computer. I study Mandarin Chinese, Chinese literature. We still use handwriting in my PhD program. So around the university, you can see not the small cafes or restaurants, but publishing shops. They help you print out your papers, staple them. So can you imagine that my PhD dissertation was handwritten? It's no longer like that. So when I was looking for a job, the manager asks you, do you know how to use a computer? Oops, I didn't know. So I purchased a PC that has the Microsoft Windows operating system, but it was all in English. But I managed to learn in 3 months. I learned something I should have learned in college. Now, AI is bringing us a new era. As Isabel said, we're looking at the 4th Industrial Revolution. Okay, are there any questions from the floor? Please raise your hand. My staff gave me many questions to ask, but I want to ask the floor first because you're here. Your questions are important. Your views are important. Feel free to share anything. Should I ask a specific participant to ask questions? I'm being really sincere in soliciting your questions here. I already told you that I knew very little about computers, so whatever your question is, it must be smart. Okay, over there. My question is for Isabel. You have 2 hats. You work in the Digital Human Rights Division in MODA, and you also work on the review panel. I think these are very interesting combination. In the morning, we discussed how to strike a balance between human rights and AI. That's an odd question. I think in designing AI, human rights need to be designed into AI already, right? Instead of having these 2 things opposing each other. So what's your thought on this? Thank you, Professor Gan. This is a wonderful question. I highlighted this because when governments devise AI policies to face challenges brought about by AI, cross-agency collaboration and coordination is paramount. So I work in these 2 groups. Well, they are independent and separate. They are under the same ministry, but these are 2 separate projects. Very interesting. They appear to be very much connected, right? As you say, AI and human rights are not opposing each other. It's more about how we start with the design of AI, the conception of AI. From that stage, human rights should already be part of it. So there should be this goal. One of the goals of AI is to guarantee human rights. So I think Microsoft is doing very well in this regard. When we review AI, we need to have discussions between different projects. We need to coordinate so that we can integrate everybody's goals into it. Because I work in these two different groups, I have the opportunity to function as a bridge, to bridge the communication, to bridge collaboration among different agencies. And that's the role I want to play, because benchmarking is important, very important. The Financial Supervisory Commission also proposed their guidelines, and so do other agencies. But how do you make sure whether the financial institutions, such as banks, are following the guidelines? Sometimes you can tell by the documents or the report they have, but sometimes you have to test them. You have to have persuasive tools to test whether or not their institutions are following the guidelines, so that we can be sure that, okay, when this bank is reviewing loan application, does its AI have bias? You need to have a ruler to measure. Without the ruler, everybody work on their own. Okay, I think there's another difficult question coming on. Professor Liu. Okay, I will follow Professor Gan's question. I think, Isabel, you work in these different frameworks as a non-government official, but I am very curious and I'm very confused as well. This is the time we need to respond to many questions about AI. I received an email from a professor from Warsaw University. I plan to visit him in August. He told me that he now is helping EU with EU's AI framework. While doing that, in the EU Commission, there are several resource centers on cyber justice and AI. These resource centers help to create the tools for evaluation. And he asked me that, can you bring the tools from Taiwan to be part of our framework? What I can say is that we don't have anything established in Taiwan yet. That's the truth. But I can also say that we are working on it. But it seems that between government agencies, there isn't real collaboration. The Ministry of Digital Affairs, I think, wasted so many years. Their efforts are not effective either. Can you update us with the latest progress in the ministry? I can't really update you with the ministry's efforts because we are having the new minister in the position for about a month only. So it's too early to say anything. So what should I say? Okay. Our academy wants to work with the government closely, so we hope that very soon we can meet the people in the government. We can help design classes to increase AI literacy. It's important to cultivate talent within the government. As Professor Liu said, we probably need a better mechanism to work with the private sector. Private sector is moving very, very quickly on AI. So when I visited Microsoft, I felt that they're already in the moon, they're in the space already, and we're still on the ground. So many private experts can help the government, I believe. So we need a better mechanism for public and private collaboration. In the past, there wasn't really a good work structure or framework. I'm not talking about whose responsibility is what. I'm just pointing out that there wasn't a comprehensive goal for AI, saying that, okay, AI is a national goal. Our annual conference last year invited the head of technology companies, and they say that AI is only emerging, and your capacity in AI is the national capacity. If that's true, then we need to have a good work framework and division of work that includes the private sector, businesses, and government agencies. I have this idea. We need to have a national meeting on AI because its impact is way too significant. Its impact to the society is going to be huge. My concern is the Matthew effect. So this is Matthew from Bible. You need more people and more skills in the progress of the technology. Some people are going to be left out. So I think that's a key, and that really requires more discussions. Thank you, Isabel. Okay, we have another question over here. This is Chou Yiling from International Amnesty Taiwan. I have a question for Vincent because AI, Amnesty International has some reports regarding Meta and Google and their algorithms, because their algorithms may lead to the massacres of some refugees. So that's why I think you talk about how to make algorithms more transparent, and the human rights concept need to be part of the design of AI. So NGOs right now care a lot about human rights in businesses and businesses' responsibility to protect human rights. There are no due diligence requirements in Taiwan just yet. So Microsoft is a international or multinational company in Taiwan. What do you think the roles businesses should play while there aren't specific laws? What roles big companies like yours can play to help watch out human rights related risks? Wow, this is a million-dollar question. Based on our previous experience, well, I gave some examples, including AI. From the technology perspective, the vision is to empower every person and every organization. They can have better achievements based on technology. The most advanced technologies can be used to empower or to enable everyone. The latest technologies can enable people, bring out their potentials. Another thought, as you said, in my presentation, I didn't have time to talk about it, but there was a book, Tools and Weapons. AI and many other technologies are tools. They may also become weapons. So it depends on people as to how they're going to use it. Our focus today is AI, and people do have concerns about the risks related to AI, but based on the history in the past several decades, technology companies are leading the development of technologies, and they are also aware of the risks associated with the technologies. So tech for good was an idea that was coined very early on. I think OpenAI has such an idea, and other organizations collect public opinions regarding AI. So it's always a double-sided sword. You can cut either way. In the examples I gave, in the output of LLM, you can screen the results. This can be done by technology, but technology alone is not sufficient. So there should be a role of human beings, and that's why I said we need HI with AI. We need human intelligence as well. And I still have confidence in people, even though some people are bad people, and plus the power of the civil society. I believe that, as you know, there are many outstanding NGOs. They are bottom-up and grassroots organizations.
多的角度来看的话，
So from a variety of perspectives, I'm sure they will be able to not pressure, but advise or inform these tech companies that if you just purely maximize the benefits in business sense, there's definitely impact. So there should be a way to strike a balance, or of course, back and forth discussions are required, but definitely we are trying to step toward the direction that technology is made for human beings. So a young participant sitting at the corner. I'm not young anymore. I am a policy analyst from East Asia Human Rights Action Plan Organization. We know that when we discuss digital policies, usually digital platforms are multinational. How influential can Taiwan be in this international platform? When we discussed disinformation, we saw what happened there. And in the process of applying AI, and how international AI companies can hear the voice of Taiwan, especially in areas such as human rights and human rights values. What is the possibility of Taiwan to exert our influence? My second question is that there's a lot of tech companies from Taiwan that play a big role in the AI development. So when we talk about human rights, what is the role of Taiwan? So if I can ask Jia Wei to start. Thank you so much, Macau, for your question. V-Taiwan's work last year probably was something that's almost succeed. We didn't get to change much, but we were able to voice on behalf of Taiwan. But we have to admit that how to maintain our relationship with or our relation with the large tech companies, that's a pretty tricky issue. We had a lot of internal discussions as well. I was invited to be involved in some internal activities of OpenAI. They regularly invite people to share their study results or to share with us their results of working with NGOs. Does that constitute a meaningful engagement? All I can do is to bring more feedback from Taiwan and to make a closed system a little bit more open. So I guess that's what my organization has been working to achieve. I'm sure that we're all from different backgrounds. We are talking about a very hard topic outside of our comfort zone. So this is very challenging, right? You talked about, again, how to step out of a comfort zone in Taiwan and to engage in discussions with people from different countries. Fortunately, we have AI, so we're able to leverage AI for translation. But a kind reminder, when we talk about this topic, we usually do not focus on the things that the general public focuses on. We are in the same sounding board community, but for general public, because of an algorithm, they are used to hearing familiar information that sound nice to their ears. We need to use simple terms, just like how I explained this to my mom, so that she can make informed decision. And encourage her to get more information, not just from me. So she learned from me, and she got more information, and then she learned that we should not trust all the information provided by media. So fortunately, we have AI. It's a bit easier for us to step outside of our comfort zone, and we're able to voice for ourselves, and our voice can be understood by other people. I very much agree with James. You talked about how Taiwan can be seen by the world. Actually, it's not just about AI, it's about voice in the international community. Before AI, there's definitely what we call mainstream or non-mainstream opinions. So in this environment, how do we have our voice heard or have Taiwan seen by the international community? As we talked about earlier, there's a lot of AI tools, for example, language tools. So a recommendation, so voice as much as you can on the platform. And on LLM, there is usually a platform for civic participation, and to attract your attention and to grab your eyeballs or attention to hear everybody's voices and input. So the opinions provided to the LLM platform is welcome, because for them, it's a good contribution to the training of the model. They're able to collect more information and data. So AI is definitely empowering. Another thing that came to me was people talk about a large language model, and the trend that we see now from the perspective of industry, SLM is a different angle. It doesn't have to be universal or LLM because it's very costly, as Isabel touched upon. If we could start with a smaller scale language model to address local Taiwanese culture or the voice of the society of Taiwan, as Isabel talked about education, healthcare, and law. So culturally, or in terms of implementation, there might be some unique data. We can use SLM to be more focused and to be more cost saving or energy saving, and to generate that is more relevant to Taiwan, whether it's about our culture, so that Taiwan can be seen by the world. So I think that's another opportunity that AI can help. To address the second question about industries, if I can ask you, raise your hand if you're working in Hsinchu Science Park or Neihu Science Park, any science park in Taiwan? No. Okay, which is a big problem, because I am very delighted to hear from Mr. Shi when it comes to privacy protection, human rights protection. It has to be built into the hardware. To have that built into the hardware, which means it has to be built on the chip level. But nobody makes chips here. But there's a lot of people making chips in Taiwan. So how do we engage those people and to make them aware of this? And which is a good business opportunity for them. So while making money, they're able to have AI developed with human rights addressed. So that would be what we are trying to pursue here. So back to your earlier question, or first question, how do we influence others. I'm a very practical person. First and foremost, I think Taiwan is great, and people here are great. I have been working with many international organizations, and I really love Taiwan. Last year, I was working or making a publication on the platform of the UN, and I think the depth and the breadth of the understanding of international affairs by Taiwanese people is really remarkable. So we have to be first confident about ourselves, and we need to definitely leverage tools to make more connections. So through international organizations that, for example, Access Now is a good way. Next year, they're going to organize a event, ResCon, with more than 3,000 people joining. I think that's a very important opportunity for Taiwan, because every company will send representatives to join the event. We need to use this opportunity to make more connections, to lobby, to make sure that our voice are reflected. Our time is up. We don't want to delay the following session. So thank you very much for the keynote speaker and the 3 panelists for your wonderful presentations and points of views, which is really horizon broadening. Thank you so very much. Let's put our hands together for our 3 speakers. I know that there's a gentleman in the blue shirt. You raise your hand with a question. You may approach our speakers during the break. We would like to have a group photo. So once again, I'd like to thank you all for your participation and your wonderful questions. We're going to have a coffee break. You may use the coffee break to have further exchange. Thank you very much.
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际。落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等、没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极的来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心，弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际，落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极的来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心，弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际，落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重 重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极的来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心、弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际，落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等、没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极的来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心、弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。 无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际。落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等、没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极的来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良。
好的，各位现场的贵宾以及我们线上的来宾，欢迎。
Ladies and gentlemen online and on site, welcome back. We're now proceeding to session 3. The topic of session 3 is international responses to AI technologies and human rights challenges, lessons and inspirations for Taiwan.
3. International responses to AI technologies and human rights challenges, lessons and inspirations for Taiwan. 那么这个场次呢，我们的报告人是非常荣幸的邀请。
It is our honor to have Ms. Sophie Nurbon, Director in charge of Economic Co-Regulation, Commission National.
Libet, Ms. Sophie Nurbon here to join us online. Please give us a wave. Hi, Ms. Nurbon, welcome. 嗨，我们可以现场跟他挥挥手、鼓个掌，他看得到我们现场哦。Welcome, it's wonderful to have you here with us. 好的，那么紧接着呢，我们就要来首先邀请
I'd like to first invite the moderator, Wu Bai, to open up session 3. Good afternoon. I'm surprised that you were able to understand my language, Naiho, which means how are you? I'm a indigenous people. We don't usually say how are you because we are already fine. The Zou would never say how are you. The Zos would say Basula Numu Namasumu. Are you breathing well? Because they live at a higher altitude, so they always ask about how you breathe. And we went to Australia. There's a village there, and we were there to look at their healthcare. And the contact is a black person from Australia. He said, we have done this and that. I say, we are both indigenous peoples. We don't start with work. We should first introduce ourselves, and then we sing songs together, and then we talk about work. And I don't think this is available in AI. I don't think AI has such a greeting practice. The topic of this session is lessons and inspirations for Taiwan. This is our very last session today. Thank you so very much for staying with us from the morning all the way till now, especially our distinguished guest from Australia, Lorraine. And we're here to talk about AI and its challenges for human rights. And this is a very important topic. We're hoping that through this discussion, Taiwan can learn from international practices regarding the legal frameworks. That is why we have our keynote speaker from France to give us the talk. And we have two panelists. The first is Professor Jingyi Liu. Let's put our hands together for Professor Liu. I looked at Professor Liu's PowerPoint deck. I'm not able to understand. I don't want to read the slides twice because I would feel frustrated. I think it's more than reasonable that I do not understand or follow her slides because there's a big gap in Taiwan. Our second panelist is Mr. Yo Hao Lai, who is studying in the PhD class. So without further ado, let's welcome Ms. Sophie Nurburn.
还没有发音好，对，sorry。
Okay, now please welcome Ms. Sophie Nurburn for her keynote speech. Welcome.
Good afternoon to you all. I'm very glad to be with you today, and I thank the National Human Rights Commission of Taiwan for its invitation. And I thank you too for being able, by representing the French Data Protection Authority, so the CNIL, to contribute to the work of this forum, very important, on AI and human rights. I sincerely regret not being physically amongst you. That would be, of course, much better than a video, but at least we can communicate and exchange on this day, a very special day, I would say, because in Europe is the day of the publication of the IA European Act, our new legal framework dealing with development and use of IA system in the EU, but having a quite broad definition of IA applicable to actors inside and outside the EU, as long as the IA system is placed on the EU market or its use affects people located in the EU. So perhaps we will elaborate later on this new regulation. I gave some specific slides that you can use as a documentation. And I just wanted to point out some specific facts about the development of digital technology and the emergence of a permanent space of interaction as a really major evolution in our society. This transformation has modified all human activities, making digital technology an essential element of the globalization process. This new space, in constant evolution, necessarily produces an effect on human rights, justifying particular attention so that the innovations it brings serve our democratic values. In this regard, the issue of privacy protection takes an increased importance in this new environment in which borders are abolished and where data, personal or not personal, constantly circulates. What we see is that the more the cyber world develops, the more it becomes an issue of power, being both an opportunity to promote fundamental freedoms, but also to manipulate and control populations whose behavior could be predicted, whether to establish an advertising or a fraud model when it comes to business, or to ensure the security and or control of citizens for governments. At any given moment, millions of individuals leave traces of their digital activity. They allow you to identify their tastes, interests, but also, more often than we think, their political or religious beliefs, their friendly relationships, their travel, as well as their state of health. This is why, in this environment, respect for privacy plays an essential role. And I would say that in the digital age, and of course, this is all reinforced by the IA systems, the protection of citizens' personal data is the breeding ground for other freedoms. It turns out, as I was telling you, that the European Artificial Intelligence Act is being officially published today, and so will enter into force in the 1st of August. This European legislation which complements the GDPR, has the ambition of being able to be adopted in other regions of the world, as it was already the case for the GDPR, and to present an alternative model to other large blocks of legislation. And of course, I'm speaking about the United States and China. I shall concentrate on a specific subject, mass surveillance, to explain how the CNIL is operating in France, to give you an idea, and why not, it's a big word, but you was speaking about inspiration, Mr. Moderator. So what is happening in France at the moment about public surveillance? Of course, we all think about the Cambridge Analytica affair revealed in 2018 and giving a push to the adoption of the GDPR, I should say, because this affair demonstrated the risk that the use of opaque personal data processing practices could represent, which resulted in the political targeting of internet users, opening the door to the manipulation of opinion and interference from foreign powers. As a continuation of this scandal, the GDPR strengthened the protection of citizens' data and the powers of protection authorities, including in matters of political prospection. The CNIL has set up an election observatory since 2012 to collect reports from citizens in connection with the data processing carried out for the election. For the recent European elections, we were particularly attentive to the impact of the use of artificial intelligence in political communication strategies, the increase in hyperfaking, and the use of profiling and targeting of voters by recommendation algorithms. On the freedom of movement, states, most often to guarantee the security of citizens, of course, use surveillance technologies which can result in limiting freedom of movement. I am thinking in particular of video protection devices, which, by their omnipresence and their intrusiveness, are among the systems involving the most risks for privacy. Indeed, the images captured and the associated data reveal where we are, at what time, with whom, and what we are doing. Recent technological developments have further increased the mass of information collected, with the real-time identification by coupling with facial recognition or algorithmic analysis of behavior. We all remember the Snowden affair in 2013 and the international outrage caused by the public revelation of the massive, systematic, and indiscriminate surveillance activities carried out by intelligence services in the United States and Europe. In France, the CNIL has ruled on several occasions on legislative measures making it possible to increase the use of video devices, particularly on public roads, which is the place where public freedoms such as the right to go and come, the right to demonstrate, or access to places of worship. The CNIL considered that a societal debate was desirable around the use of new video technologies, in particular those involving the use of algorithms and artificial intelligence. The deployment of what we call augmented cameras has sparked a wide debate in France as part of the organization of the next Olympic and Paralympic Games in Paris this summer, as you know all. The guarantees provided by the law have made it possible to limit the risk of harm to data and the privacy of individuals and are in line with the recommendations made by the CNIL. So, what are those guarantees? First, the law has strictly regulated the use of algorithmic video surveillance for 8 specific use cases corresponding to serious risks for people. So that would be, as an example, when there is somebody in a prohibited place, or if you see somebody lying on the floor. So there are like that 8, I will not tell all the use case, but this is an FAQ published on our website, at the CNIL website, cnil.fr, in English. So that was done just last week, publication in English. So another guarantee is that these devices are experimental, limited in time and space, do not process biometric data, so there is no facial recognition, and also do not result in automatic decisions, with always a human analysis remaining necessary. This experiment began in September 23 on the occasion of the organization in France of the Rugby World Cup and will end at the end of June next year. And since the beginning, the CNIL is carrying out some check on the ground, in particular to verify the necessity and proportionate nature of these measures. On this last point, the CNIL considers, generally speaking, the surveillance carried out by these technologies being considerably reducing the anonymity available to citizens in public spaces, and that it is absolutely necessary to set red lines. For example, never use these cameras for the purposes of social rating. By the way, social rating is one of the IA system being prohibited in Europe, and this prohibition will enter into application 6 months after the entry into force of our new regulation published today. And so it means that beginning, so the 1st of August, so 6 months later, it will be a prohibition for all Europe. In conclusion, I would say that privacy and democracy have an intimately linked destiny, one protecting the other and vice versa. So it's why it's so important to be able to defend them. And I thank you for your attention, and we will be very pleased to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much。我们掌声感谢主任带来的分享，谢谢。好，那么紧接着我们就邀请到与谈嘉宾进行分享。首先欢迎刘静怡教授来到台前，我们掌声欢迎刘教授。
Let's invite the first panelist, Professor 静怡刘。
欢迎。有请。
所以线上的人也可以听得到。
So can everybody hear me? Both the online and on-site participants. Okay, thank you so much for inviting me to join the forum. We're at the very last session, and the disadvantage for us is that all the things that can be talked about have been talked about. I'll try my best to come up with something new in the forum. The topic that assigned to me is about international development of AI regulations. I added a subtitle, which is governance and human rights. So today, I will start with AI regulations and their trends, as well as the imaginations of governments about AI, as well as human rights organizations' imaginations about AI. So how do we ensure the value of human rights? Let me first introduce myself. I am a professor at National Taiwan Development Research Institute. I am also a committee member of BSET. And if you look at GPAID and IGF expert, so I was invited and involved in personal capacity, so I do not represent them. So just some clarification here. I don't think there's any controversy regarding this. I believe that we have formed a consensus. Whether it's about ethics or laws, we believe that there has to be somewhat of a governance or management of AI or supervision of AI, especially internationally and within the academic community. People believe that there has to be international regulations or dedicated organizations to do this. If you look at the development of AI, regarding traditional AI, for example, over the past 6 to 7 decades of development, and in the recent decade or two, we are seeing rapid development of AI. This is what we call traditional AI, which already imposes a lot of impact on society or on our ethics. And the emergence of generative AI has a lot of impact on the future of work. I don't think it's not only about work. It actually would have a lot of impact on every aspect of our day-to-day life. I'll give you some examples. So why it is necessary to regulate AI. For example, autonomous driving, we have to deal with risk and responsibility issues or consumer protection issues. We have to address insurance schemes. In many disciplines, the use of AI, whether it's among lawyers or accountants or even engineers are using AI. So there's a lot of professional ethics issues and how do human beings interact with the machines? How do we collaborate? Or when we talk about human being-based decision making, what are we focused on? For example, if the government decides on whether to give you the pension or give you unemployment subsidy, how is it decided whether you can get it or not, or how much you can get? In Taiwan, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but from my perspective, I think the most commonly adopted is healthcare related AI. Because if you look at the medical data in Taiwan, we have very comprehensive medical data or healthcare data. And a lot of people are involved in medical images to use AI to apply AI on medical images. So besides legal issues, another issue is the resource allocation in healthcare. So who is able to have access to the services of medical AI? So the resource allocation, will the resource allocation be impacted because of the availability of medical AI? And also, there are issues about how to get training data, which is a big issue in Taiwan, to get legit, quality training data that fulfills the requirement of human rights and democracy in Taiwan, which is not easy. We also need quality control. We have to deal with access rights issues. And in the era of AI algorithm, there's a lot of fair competition issues. Let me give you an example. Any tech company in Taiwan or any big techs in the world, this is not fair competition, right? The entry barrier is different. So how do we address these issues? There's another issue that these will further generate an issue of how to protect the fundamental rights and how it will change our imagination of a constitution. Some of my European friends talk a lot about the digital constitution. Just give you a random example. In Geneva, 3 days ago at ITU, there's a summit. They organize a summit every year, which is AI for Good. Almost all the UN members are there. Taiwan is not there, of course. But all the big tech company representatives are there. All the big names that you and I are familiar with are there. So everybody gathered together to talk about how to have international collaboration to achieve AI for good. My question is, in terms of international collaboration, what are we trying to achieve, especially for Taiwan? What is there for Taiwan, and how do we look at this kind of international collaboration? And I'd like to share with you some of my observations and some of the trends of international organizations. Let's first look at GPI. It's been 4 years, almost 5 years, starting from advocacy till now. It's been 6 or 7 years. In 2022, they organized a summit in Asia, which is in Tokyo, because the chair country was Japan. They came up with a couple of important values and principles, which are underlined here on my slide. First is our commitment to OECD AI principles, which is human-centered values, protecting dignity and well-being, and promoting trustworthy, reasonable, and sustainable use of artificial intelligence. It also emphasizes the importance of democratic values, inclusiveness. They are against unlawful and irresponsible use of AI. So this is the OECD AI principles. So all the GPay members need to swear into these commitments. And who are these members? And based on the OECD AI principles, to evaluate their AI readiness to decide whether you are eligible to join GPay. I did some assessment for Taiwan as well. I think Taiwan is qualified, but Taiwan hasn't been applying to join. I don't think it's necessary for us to do so anyway, because at the end of this year, GPay will finish its goal and it'll be incorporated into OECD. So we got this notification. So next, we need to observe how OECD addresses GPay. So this is GPay. There's 29 member countries, including European Union. As you can see, these are G7 countries. With the assistance of OECD, organize this organization. They claim to maintain democratic values and human rights values in the process of AI development. What I would like to highlight here is, I'm not sure if you know this, but in Asia, there are 4 countries there, but we don't see that big country. That country or that big country is never invited based on my understanding. I looked at their year 1 self-nominated experts. That's how I got into the organization. And I basically nominated myself, but it's I was encouraged by my friends at OECD to nominate myself, if you know what I mean. So they would like to have someone who speaks Chinese and someone that they are familiar with. This is all I can say. So I do have some familiar friends there. And because China is not there, okay, I spelled it out, it's China. Over the years, I have been safe because China is not there. No one yelled at me, no one screamed at me, asking me to get out of the organization. So I've been safe in that organization. We have a working group. And if you look at these working groups, these are all the keywords that we have been discussing all, throughout the entire day. Responsible AI, data governance, future of work, innovation, and commercialization. In other words, these are the topics that everybody is concerned about. In Montreal and Paris, there are 2 centers of expertise. In Tokyo, there's another center being established. My understanding is that these centers will continue to work. And the new representative should have good communications with these centers to make good relationship there. And these are the GPay principles. This is how we work. We have working groups, and each and every working group has its annual plan and led by experts. This one is a law professor at Vienna University. She is also one of the science directors at European Union. She is in charge of a project about code-generated data to come up with a legal guideline for member countries to follow. And we can take this legal guideline back to our own country to implement the guideline. This one is a project led by me. This project is about the role of a government as a provider of data for AI. So how do we, on the one hand, providing data, on the other, to protect human rights? So our project is already in year 2. Year 1, we have already published our report, which is available on GPay website. You can download it for free. I encourage you to take a look at this report. Everything that's discussed there are things that I talk about in Taiwan. But when I talk about them in Taiwan, nobody listened. And this year, what we do, or year 2, in year 2, what we do is my term will be up this year, but what we're going to do is to involve a few countries to be our partners in our pilot project. This is what we are doing right now. Last night, I had a meeting with Uruguay, and I had a meeting with Turkey, and the night before with Nigeria. We would like to involve these countries to encourage them to share their data, whether to share with the public or private sector, to see what are the challenges that might happen along the way. So through these studies or research, we would like to know if in the future, when developing AI, whether it's in public sector or private sector for partnership, how does the government address these challenges? And we would like to learn from these experiences to produce some guidelines for member countries to use and contribute the guideline to all the international entities who are interested in doing something there. So this year, these are the GPA priorities. As you can see, all the things are the topics that are quite timely and important. All of these are implemented in the initiatives of these working groups. I did some estimation. Our project, there's about 14 or 15 projects, and next year there should be some continuation, of course, under the umbrella of OECD. If you're interested in to engage, you need to engage OECD. And Taiwan has been a stranger to OECD, so if we could kindly encourage our French representative to work hard toward that direction. This is the G7 Ministerial Declaration. As you can see, every year they are focused on digital related issues or AI related issues, and they make declarations of such. Last year, they've been talking a lot about how to facilitate responsible data flow or trustworthy data flow to ensure that digital infrastructure to be secure and resilient, which involves what we have been talking a lot about, internet governance. And when it comes to AI, again, responsible AI and global AI governance. In terms of global AI governance, I will talk about this later. So AI Safety Summit is here. I would like to touch upon some legal aspects. As the moderator mentioned earlier, the part that he was not able to understand or comprehend. First, let's start with the EU AI Act. It has been discussed for many years. Before this, the EU had a lot of regulations. The most relevant one is GDPR, which is data related. Regarding the interpretation of data and transparency of data, they use personal data protection as the starting point. So it is not very comprehensive to look at AI in a holistic way. So after discussions, they decided to come up with the AI Act. So after years of discussions, basically, I believe that this will come into effect next year. If I remember correctly, in May, the last green light was passed. So this has become an official law of the EU. So there's no watch and wait anymore. This will be happening, and this will be impacting our lives because this is a real law now. And this is the January version, which is almost the same as the May version. I cannot list out all the regulations or all the articles. It's about 200 pages of a pamphlet. So I was explaining to the commissioners that I can organize a one-year workshop to teach EU AI Act. Okay, I have a few minutes left only. So these are the things that this act is regulating, which is very comprehensive. The most important one is this is a risk-based. And because this is a risk-based, there are things that are forbidden to use AI. So if you look at the draft of 2021, there's already systems that are forbidden to use AI. You can just refer to the slide. If you look at the draft of 2023, which further make those forbidden systems more specific, and there are more contents being added. So these contents, just please refer to the slides. These are the things that totalitarian countries love to use, and which is easy for them to use. And these are high-risk systems that are complicated. So basically, it's about how government monitors people, or how enterprises monitor their employees. Even though some systems have small or little AI risks, again, under circumstances, they need to have transparent disclosure. So what is a transparency obligation? I think transparency obligation is one of the cores of the legal framework. For example, for high-risk AI system, information needs to be transparent and provided. For specific systems or specific scenarios, there are corresponding transparency obligations. And the obligations cover the development and design of AI, as well as the use of AI. This requirement needs to be fulfilled. I think it's Isabel or someone who said this, that this is a business opportunity here. This law not only tells you where you can make money, it also tells you if you want to make money, you have to follow certain rules in order for you to make money. Let me give you an example. If a Taiwanese company would like to sell a product into the European Union market, for anyone in European Union market to use it, then you have to fulfill these obligations. So why should I follow the human rights standards set forth by European Union? The EU would say, well, you don't have to, but then don't do business in the European Union. So this has been a common practice of the EU over the years. I won't go into details here. What I would like to emphasize here is anything that involves the high risks, whether it's a supplier, user, or other actors, there is corresponding obligations, especially before the product is available in the market or after. Just look at how FDA works, or how food safety is being monitored or regulated in the EU. Basically, it follows the same format. So it's not something invented from nowhere. This is already done, or a already available practice. And also, there has to be a fundamental right impact assessment. So what is the impact of your products on fundamental rights? You have to make EIA like assessment, or gender impact assessment. I was discussing this with Isabel. My friend is doing this for the European Commission. This requires a lot of assessment, a lot of monitoring. So there has to be a human oversight mechanism at the whole process. The documentation of technical materials have to be kept. And when you produce the products, there has to be conformity assessment. So you get to see from here that there's a lot of obligations for you to follow. And this piece of law is very complicated. In order for member countries to follow the legislation or to follow the law, there is European AI Office. There's also some other mechanisms being built. So after talking about the EU, what are the other things that we have to pay attention to? So for example, GDPR and OECD. In 2022 or 2023, there is a EU Data Governance Act, which is already entering into force. Let's take a look at the US. So far, at least at the federal level, we don't see any hard laws like the EU. Without the hard laws, the Americans are still doing things just like the EU. Starting from the Obama administration, I think it's the very final year of the Obama administration. The White House has already proposed AI-related policies. We do see documents from Trump's administration. In Biden's administration, we even see AI Bill of Rights. And of course, this is for people's reference. It serves as a guidance. But the government is already saying that this is for your reference. Then people would definitely refer to this guidance. And throughout the day, we've been talking a lot about NIST, which is a U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology. This is for the industry to use to address AI-related risks. This is a framework. And this framework has become a document that every government would refer to. The very last one is not the only one. This is a committee organized by the parliament. We call it NAIAC, which is established by Department of Commerce, but it is a source of advice for the president. And they've already came up with the reports, and the report for this year is available already. And feel free to look at their website, because on the website there's a lot of human rights related reports that are very, very useful. They basically put together the reports. Do I have 10 minutes or 10 seconds? They put together information or issues that need people's attention. There's more than a dozen documents on the website. Let's look at China. There are also some things. I think it's quite efficient for the Chinese government to draft laws. Then let's look at Taiwan. What do we have here in Taiwan? No pun intended when I talked about how efficient the Chinese government is when it comes to law drafting. I'm not quite sure. Over the past 2 days, have we announced this to collect opinions? Last week, I was having a meeting with the National Science and Technology Council to discuss this topic. Back in earlier days, when Mr. Chen was the Minister of Technology, there was AI development guidance being drafted. That draft was to organize, was for the guidance of AI centers of colleges or universities. And minister back then believed that we should allocate resources to kick off things. But then I said that we have to pay attention to ethics. And then the minister said, "Oh, very well, then let's draft a guidance." I tried to modify and edit the draft, and we have been using this AI R&D guidance ever since. And after generative AI, the administrative yuan also come up with a guidance. And each and every government department also comes up with their domain guidance. Let's look at international developments of these international organizations. Over the past 1 year, the most famous one is G7. And what is worth noting here is there is a lot of countries involved. So supposedly, it should be initiated by the UK, and there is a AI safety summit, and many of the substantial consensus is being achieved. I think it was either April, May, or June. Korea took over, and they organized a second meeting online. So this is by invitation, and Taiwan was not invited, and China is there. If I remember correctly, there are 40 or 50 member countries. So I think Taiwan should come up with a way to find an approach to get into the organization, because this involves AI safety, and it's about international consensus, and this is an international forum. For GPay, at the end of last year in New Delhi, there's a summit. Again, they reiterated the commitment to trustworthy AI. These are individual laws in each and every country. Korea, the US, Japan, and Singapore, whether for risks or generative AI governance, they came up with some basic guidelines. If we would like to differentiate, we could say that, for example, for the US came up with a lot of guidelines and principles. They require the administrative agencies to come up with their regulations or implementation rules. I think the most famous one is the presidential order proposed by Biden last October. They require in certain time frame, government agency need to come up with their AI guidance within certain time frame. As you can notice, over the past 6 months, the federal agencies do follow this presidential order and come up with their guidelines. So if you say that there's no AI-related laws and regulations in the US, I don't think that's a right characterization. The US is taking a different approach. They want to ensure that the US enjoys leadership in the area of AI. And they would like to protect the Americans from the negative impact of AI. Let's look at Singapore, which is quite interesting. The route is like this. They established AI development principles, and under this framework, the government provides many tools and methodologies, as well as best practices or examples to inform everyone what is the best practice of AI development. You can come to the government and access these tools and examples for your reference. I'm just listing out a few. The first one is a national AI strategy, and recently there is a model AI governance framework. And then there's a corresponding toolkits and sandbox. This is one way of doing this as well. This is my last slide, so stop showing me the time. We've been talking a lot. I only used 35 slides. I originally had 50 actually. So this is our common issues. When I said we, I refer to people in Taiwan and all of our friends in the international society. Again, I'm a practical person. I'm a practical law scholar. Are we able to practically identify all the existing or potential AI-related human rights or regulation controversies? We've been talking a lot, but we haven't been able to list out all of them. So to address issues, we need to first identify the issues that we would like to address. And while we are trying to come up with the solutions, we need to understand the substance of international regulations. I shared some of them with you, but those are superficial reviews. There's a lot underneath. So once we understand the international regulation or regulatory trends, and then we can analyze the gap between our current laws in Taiwan and the international regulations. We can know how far apart are we, and based on this basis, we can then further clarify what are the insufficiencies in Taiwan for us to have sufficient protection for human rights. Another layer of thinking is that every country is talking about how to regulate the development of AI. International organizations are doing these things. I talked about ITU of the UN. WIPO is organizing AI-related meetings quarterly. UNESCO is the first starter. GPay is highly related to UNESCO. UNESCO has been a close partner for GPay and OECD when it comes to AI issues, and also about human rights issues and diversity issues. What I'm trying to say here is these things are happening every day. Are we evaluating practically how Taiwan should address these international trends? Or we just want to do with short term to address a long-term issue? Let me give you an example. We talked about what kind of technologies that we would like to develop, what kind of data we need. And then we say, oh, the Private or Personal Data Act in Taiwan is too stringent. And then we ask the competent authority to come up with the interpretation of certain article in the Personal Data Protection Act of Taiwan, which looks to me, the interpretation is not appropriate, but this interpretation fits the short-term need. I don't think this is a viable approach. Internationally, we are seeing a lot of examples telling us that they are viable long-term approach to do this. And in Taiwan, we know that we have some unique situation that we have to address.
So it is necessary to discuss international regulations or standards, but to be honest with you, when these standards are produced, and if you are compliant with them, there isn't really much room for mistakes. Currently, in Taiwan, we do have some niches for some aspects of AI, for example, chips. I think we can therefore focus on regulations on that part. So people ask me this a lot. Hey, you're from Taiwan. The chip industry in Taiwan is excellent. In the foreseeable future, the world has to rely on the chips produced by Taiwan. What's your regulation for AI in your position? Because you have such advantage to do so. And I think we need to really think about it, whether or not we need to come up with specific regulations for chips, because it's our advantage. Otherwise, we're almost like throwing our advantage away. I think that's all the time I have. I will conclude here. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Liu, for your presentation. Please return to your seat. Next, let me invite Liao Youhao, the non-resident fellow from Research Institute for Democracy, Society, and Emerging Technology. Good afternoon. I am Youhao Lai. I am honored to be here to share with you my thoughts. A brief self-introduction. I'm a lawyer. At the same time, I am the non-resident fellow of DSET. I am also a PhD student. I focus on internet speech, cyber privacy, and so on. Before all this work, I used to work as a secretary to the president of the Judicial Yuan. So I know something about the judicial process. I have seen some live streaming of the discussions in the court these days, and that really brings me back many memories. And digital human rights and initiatives in these fields are also part of my job right now. So that's a self-introduction. It is my honor to be the last speaker to be here. This is an honor and also brings me pressure because I know I'm the only obstacle between you and your dinner. So oh, sorry, there is panel discussions after me. Oh, okay. So I will try to be brief. And my presentation will cover 3 parts. First, I will talk about AI and its relations with human rights and some controversial issues as well. And I will touch upon privacy and surveillance, which were mentioned by the keynote speaker, Ms. Sophie Nerbonne. And I will touch upon information manipulation as well. So that was first part. Then I will focus on some issues related to AI. Just a few days ago, I took inventory of international regulations. And after receiving Professor Liu's presentation, I thought it was impossible to come up with a more comprehensive presentation than hers. So I changed my strategy. So when you see the big picture, well, Professor Liu, the previous speaker, showed you the big picture, and then we can focus on separate issues, how we can learn from the AI Act. As an international trend, does that act also have limitations? I think so, because the regulatory process is dynamic. You have to talk to the business, the private sector, and NGOs. So the result is never perfect or ideal. So we also need to see the possible limitations of a new act. Then my last part will be about Taiwan. Okay, so let me start with this. This is a bigger picture. We see that AI has impact on human rights. For example, the bias in training data and design of the model and the algorithmic bias. When the person sees a decision that is unfavorable, what he or she need to deal with is the lack of algorithmic transparency and lack of contestability. When more people start to use AI, when there are some loopholes in cybersecurity in the system, and so many people rely on it, when the data is breached, the impact is bigger. When the breached data is used to exploit you through scams, through manipulation of the data, that's going to hurt the integrity of the information. And intellectual property is another issue. Who is the owner of the AI-generated content? If someone's rights are breached, who should be responsible? And adverse effects on workers, privacy and data protection. liability for damage, remedies, and so on. And all of these are human rights concerns. This is a big picture. So I'm just pointing out that it's not only about privacy, but today I focus on privacy and information integrity. I will not spend too much time on it because many speakers touch upon this already. We know that we need more data to train a good model. Sometimes the data is collected without the consent of the owners. The data may be used for surveillance and used to identify some person, say if someone's sexual orientation or other information it may be disclosed even though the owner of such information does not wish that. And emotional monitoring technology is likely to breach privacy too. There are many examples. I will not cover all of them. So consent to giving out information, facial recognition, and so on. These are all potential issues. That said, I think privacy and surveillance are, of course, two issues, but there is more based on the data that is received. Micro-targeting may be achieved. This is a structure of information manipulation. This is a life cycle information from production, dissemination to reception. And AI may affect the data flow at each of the stage. Micro-targeting in the middle is an issue. There are two other issues. At the production age, AI facilitates the production of disinformation and misinformation. 2 years ago, I might not be able to use deepfake to fool my friend, but today I can log on AI websites and I can produce fake videos. So the cost of producing deepfake videos is much lower. And as the model becomes more mature, the authenticity increases. And this is all relevant to information freedom. So what is freedom? Well, privacy of my information, meaning that am I able to control who I want to show the information to? And micro-targeting, or right to listen, or right to hold opinion without interference is also relevant to information freedom. When a person is micro-targeted because of social profiling, any bias in the information may affect your freedom. But when you want to regulate information, especially disinformation or misinformation, the freedom of speech of individuals might be limited. So control of information and protection of privacy cover these three aspects: right to speak, right to listen, and information privacy. And based on that, I want to speak about AI Act. Professor Liu already covered a lot of the Act, so I am brief here. So there are 8 categories of unacceptable risks. As long as some acts are among these categories, they will be forbidden. These are high-risk categories, which requires high level of regulation. Okay, so I want to touch upon this. In the AI Act, in Article 2, Paragraph 3, it states that the Act shall not affect the competences of the member states concerning national security. This attracts my attention because I was in Boston in 2022. I studied in Harvard Law School, and I went to Washington, D.C. for my PhD program. I feel that if you go to a more liberal area, people over there want to talk about human rights. But if you go to Washington, D.C., everybody talks about security. You meet think tank people or military people. So in your class, it's easy to meet someone who serves in Navy or in the military, and they talk about security a lot. So I start to see this gap between national security and human rights. So different cities in the United States look at things very differently. I used to focus on human rights a lot, but now in my PhD program, people start to talk about security more. So that's an interesting difference. So these are the prohibited actions. Is it possible that based on national security, all of those are waived? Because I see some discussions in EU. It is possible that AI Act may not be applicable on the ground of national security. For example, a concert wants to deploy potential terrorists using facial recognition. And that recognition is here, real-time remote biometric identification and recognition. It's prohibited. But if it involves national security, does it still apply? In the EU context, it wants to respect the state sovereignty. So there's a paragraph like this one, but if a similar act is implemented in Taiwan, we need to think about whether or not national security overrides everything else. So is it valid and is it justified? I don't know how much time I have right now or how much time I still have. Oh, I have 5 minutes left. Okay, let me cover one slide with 1 minute then. So real-time remote biometric identification is prohibited. There are some things when we see at first really makes sense, but we really need to go into the details. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to truly implement it. I point out 3 things here. The first is that the EU AI Act, it distinguishes between real-time identification and post-identification. So post-identification need to have a significant delay of time. If it is not delayed enough, the legal forces can still use post-identification right after the event, which means that this paragraph is not truly implemented. And also, this paragraph, this prohibition only applies to publicly accessible spaces. But I want to ask you a question. Where do you think may see the violations of human rights? Do you think the public spaces are the places where you see most on the human rights violations? Probably not. Maybe in, say, prisons or behind the doors. There's several judicial interpretations discuss the vulnerabilities of the inmates, but this prohibition applies only to publicly accessible spaces, so excluding jails or detention centers. The third point here is that there are especially exceptions to the RBI prohibition. For example, serious crimes, maybe exceptions, but what constitutes serious crimes? So these details, in fact, are the details that we really need to look into. Details, well, devils are in the details. So even though some things are not prohibition, but under the EU AI Act, they are considered to be high-level risks. So it requires safeguards. So the human rights impact assessment has to be conducted, and it requires authorization before biometric identification can be used. So we really need a good measure to find the equilibrium for human rights and AI. This is my last slide. I don't think I can finish it, but anyway, it's AI used for criminal profiling. The problem here is well, let me give you then a simple example here. If my MBTI is ENTP, I have that personality. Does that mean that we are more prone to crimes? It really sounds ridiculous, but here's an exception. When used to augment human assessment based on objective, verifiable facts directly linked to criminal activity, that this is an exception. For me, this is a huge loophole because it's really easy to evade the prohibition. It seems that we discussed the EU AI Act, and many loopholes are not being discussed enough. Oh, my time is up. My following slides are about freedom of expression and thought, as well as how it complements with the Digital Service Act in EU. But let me just read through the last two slides. Implications for Taiwan. Well, can RBI or criminal profiling be used for combating crimes? How do we embed the mechanism into our legal framework in a constitutional way? If we want to accommodate such mechanisms, how do we create a space to allow for them, and what's the safeguard? I want to ask this question because we discussed recently Technology Surveillance Act, and we haven't really seen the role of AI. Can the government use AI for technology-based surveillance or investigations? I think the Ministry of Justice has a system to assess whether or not people may repeat their offenses. And where does that mechanism go to? How do we look at such a mechanism in our legal framework, and how strong the mechanism should be? Also, how do we prevent the AI systems from exploiting people's vulnerabilities? For example, micro-targeting. So should specific types of profiling and micro-targeting be prohibited? What kind of profiling and micro-targeting should be prohibited or avoided? Because the anti-fraud bills have been discussed very much in Taiwan. Can the government use AI to, well, so is it possible that the AI systems are used to exploit the vulnerabilities of individuals? So the EU AI Act addresses that to some extent, but do our anti-fraud bills in Taiwan address those issues? That's something we need to discuss. And disinformation and deepfake should AI and social media companies collaborate in identifying and labeling deepfakes or other AI-generated content. Again, in the anti-fraud bills, social media companies are required to mark some ads as AI generated if it is generated by AI. But many AI generated content is not ads. It is possible that China purchases some PR companies in Taiwan and publish deepfakes or disinformation. So this content is not ads, but that is still disinformation. And Professor Liu said this earlier. The EU AI Act includes human rights impact assessment and audit mechanism. So AI systems have to have these assessments embedded in the risk life cycle. Such risks should have a comprehensive mechanism. So in developing our own AI regulatory mechanism, should we have such functions as well? That's a question. I'll conclude here. Thank you.
欢迎我们的委员还有
I'd like to invite Professor Liu and the moderator and our panelists to join us on the stage. We're now proceeding to panel discussion. Thank you, Professor Liu and Mr. Lai. About AI and human rights challenges, especially when it comes to legal frameworks. We are grateful for Professor Liu. She summarized 2 semesters of classes into 20 minutes of a presentation, and she enabled us to have an in-depth understanding about this topic. I think Sophie is not joining us for the panel discussion. So now I'd like to open the floor for Q&A. May I sit down? Yes, please. Any questions from the floor? Please wait for the microphone. Thank you. I have a question about the EU AI Act. If we are going to sell our products to the EU, what is the impact of this AI Act? Is it something like a CBAM? And what is the corresponding measures from the Taiwanese government to guide Taiwanese companies? Thank you so much. I'd like to collect 2 more questions so that we can address all 3 questions together. Or would you like to address the question first? Actually, the second question. I'd like to collect 3 questions for our panelists to address. I have a question for Professor Liu. You talked about Taiwan's role in the supply chain of AI. And you talked about the AI Act of the EU. And for semiconductors or semiconductor companies in Taiwan, how do we think about this? And this also involves human rights related issues. So is the administrative agencies engaging in dialogues regarding this? And Mr. Lai, you talked about human rights protection and the potential conflicts. Face recognition there's a lot of investigations done by the control yuan. So from your perspective, for the general public regarding issues of fraud, people, of course, would like to have these cases resolved as soon as possible. So there is such expectation there. So during the investigation, the police department may use or leverage technology. But then during the trial, these investigation means may be deemed illegal. So for example, in Taiwan, we had similar cases where corrections were required to be done. So when it comes to the use of technologies, how do we strike a balance between using technology to investigate in a timely manner versus a legit use of AI technology? So in the context of Taiwan, besides leveraging our legal framework, but for the general public, what we concern more is how do we use the technology in a legal way. And for example, there are some measures to address deepfake. But when it comes to criminal activities, people may have different opinions. So these are my questions. Okay, we would like to collect one more. Please make your question short. I will keep it short. There's a lot of policies, for example, scientific investigation. We haven't done any assessment on human rights to analyze the impact on human rights. Human rights impact assessment, we do see some indices being utilized by other governments. So any use in Taiwan? Okay, we've collected the questions from 3 participants. If I may ask any of you to start. Please advise the participant to talk to the microphone. Otherwise, the interpreter will not be able to hear them. In terms of the use of AI technologies, we can definitely use these technologies to identify fraud. I do see some reports that these technologies are being utilized. The point that I would like to make is the use of a technology has some potential risks. So to respond to people's expectation, to have a speedy investigation, the investigation authority may use the technology. And within the government, how are these technologies used is something that is not known to the general public. We don't know what the price that we have to pay. So as a legal person, as a person in the discipline of law, I believe it is necessary to use a mechanism that is lawful, that is regulated, and on the basis of a legal framework, and then we can utilize the technology and then balance or weigh in people's expectation to have speedy investigation. But the fundamental is that things have to be done legally. Human rights impact assessment. Please allow me to give it some thoughts. So if you could start. I'll first address the questions directed to me. Mr. Lai is my assistant. He and Jia Wei, who is our panelist in the previous session. So You Hao and Jia Wei used to be my assistants. And I paid them using the funding that I got from National Council of Science and Technology. Let me first address the question that's related to industries. All the issues that we discussed earlier within the European Union, in every meeting, these issues were debated for quite a long time. And the regulation scope and the time frame are being discussed and negotiated, which means that they don't really have a conclusion. Different countries may have different thoughts. For example, within the EU, we may believe that this is a more consistent community, but again, they have different thoughts. They made a lot of compromises. So this is one of the highlights that I would like to give first. So we have to ask ourselves, what kind of a country does Taiwan want to become? I think this is about choice in terms of value. We have to be clear and practical about the value that we choose. And then it affects how we use AI or the approach that we take to regulate AI, so as to protect the basic rights of people and to uphold the democratic values that we very much value. In terms of industries, let me put it this way. Back in 2021, if you look at the draft, the AI system provider and user need to be regulated. Regulated by all the aforementioned regulations in the AI Act. In 2023, more details were ironed out, more regulations were included. So besides the provider and users of AI system, if the provider and the providers and users are outside or are located outside of the jurisdiction of the EU, but based on the scenario, and if it's applicable of the AI Act, then the AI Act applies. Or if you're not providing products or services within the EU, but if your AI system is prescribed in Article 5 of the Act, and your provider or distributor is located in the EU, then the AI Act applies. The third one is the importer, distributor, and authorized representatives. If they are located in the EU, then the Act applies. The next one is anything that's related to health or safety, or anything that's regulated by the regulation of the EU that prescribes the population or target negatively impacted by the AI, then this Act applies. So this is what I'm trying to promote here, because we're here discussing AI and human rights. I have been advocating that do we have whether or not that we have an AI Act in Taiwan is not something urgent for Taiwanese business operators. For Taiwanese businesses, they need to understand and appreciate that they will be impacted by the AI Act of the EU. So when it comes to marketing or R&D, they need to adjust or even modify or change their approach because of the AI Act. They probably even need to change their portfolio or their product offerings. So I think the government needs to provide training and education to these companies, or these companies need to organize trainings by themselves. I talked to you about how there's 120 pages of a brochure. I don't want to name the name, But in National Taiwan University, there's a lot of R&D centers, which is in collaboration with companies or industries. And there is a internal training and education session. This was discussed. So they invited me to talk about this topic. So companies need this training and education. If the government can provide this, then this is a meaningful training education. If you look at these tech companies in Taiwan, they should have the ability to organize training and education, to identify qualified trainers to provide education. But what is important is not to teach or to educate about these regulations. What matters is things afterwards. They need to be able to sit down with their internal legal department to align company policies, to know what to do within the company in order for the company to be compliant. I know that there's a lot of consultation companies that are providing this kind of consultations. So for the government, besides providing guidance to the companies or businesses, the government also need to think about the AI policies and its future. Because we already have an AI Act of the EU. There's no way for you to avoid it. So this is my first point. And this also addressed the earlier question about how to address this by the semiconductor industry in Taiwan. What is challenging here is Taiwan is a democratic country. Our semiconductor industry not only needs to deal with geopolitical issues, they also need to deal with the neighboring country. I'm not calling out names, but they need to deal with the neighboring country and infrastructure issues and synergies, if you will. Even though I'm asked in some international occasions, I cannot say it out loud or explicitly. But anyway, the government needs to have its policies in place. And we need to be able to observe the development of geopolitics and to identify the optimal pathway for Taiwan that is the most beneficial for Taiwan. And the government needs to lay out the strategies and tactics. My understanding is that the government is doing something, but probably not in a systematic way. I believe that a systematic approach is very much needed. The neighboring countries are paying close attention to us. There are people from the US coming to Taiwan inquiring similar issues, Australia, Japan, New Zealand. Otherwise, Mr. Lai wouldn't have a job at DSET. So we should take a more systematic approach. We probably need another meeting to discuss this. So are you ready for your answer?
I can be very brief here. I was thinking, how should I respond to your question through actions instead of through some abstract ideas, such as, including some indicators in human rights impact assessment. Well, now I think I am a researcher under a government think tank, and I care about democracy and freedom, and so does our institution. So with the government, with NHRC, with the general public, is there a platform or a mechanism to form meaningful standards so that businesses or the developers of AIs can find incentives? For example, they cannot go listed or public traded if you don't follow the standards. or maybe there is a requirement saying that you have to conduct human rights impact assessments in the design cycle of your product. So we should come up with incentives and to help the Taiwanese community to form an agreed upon set of standards. I think that's the implication of such a conference, that we should gather people's opinion. I want to respond to human rights impact assessments. I think every country should need to try to come up with a human rights impact assessment for themselves. Of course, such assessment can be revised, and people say that we've never done this. How should we create one? This is my thoughts. I'm quite lazy, so I will talk to my friends in Europe. Okay, now you are designing such standards for EU. So can you provide your framework to me? That's why I want to visit my friend in Poland, in Warsaw, and I have another friend in Italy who is helping EU to come up with standards too. As if I were a company in Taiwan, I wouldn't be that worried, because their EU counterpart will be saying that, okay, the EU is requiring us to do this and that, so you in Taiwan need to follow this too. So frankly speaking, it's not difficult to find reference. They are probably not the best models, but there are examples. And these examples or these documents may be quite EU-centric or human rights-centric based on the EU values. But I think these documents may be used. There's no reason why we cannot refer to the EU document. And with that document, of course, we need to form an assessment standard that fits our needs. So I'm not that pessimistic here. So we can think about how we start with environmental impact assessment, right? We started with 0, and how do we do gender impact assessment? We started with 0, so we were able to finish the journeys. It's not perfect, but we do have some experience in impact assessment. So good luck to everyone. Okay, I think we've gone over 5 minutes already in the panel discussion. So if you have questions, please address the speakers in private. Let me conclude this session. It is our pleasure to have Professor Liu and her former students to be here, Mr. Lai. Yeah, human rights indicators are something new. I'm learning as well. But AI has not yet included yet. I think it needs to be added to human rights indicators. And I will ask Professor Liu how we can make our indicators better. So thank you for being here for this session. Thank you. We would like to invite the moderator, the 2 speakers, and Chairperson Chen to be in the group photo. Thank you.
我们请贵宾往前一步，谢谢，小心我们不要被投影幕的灯照到了。好，我们请看向前方的摄影镜头。好，请看向我们的摄影师，来稍微再往前一点点哦，因为我们的摄影对光线会比较好一点，请看向前方，1、2、3。 好，谢谢，我们再次感谢我们今天所有的贵宾今天的莅临，人权通信 AI。
Thank you all for being here. This is the end of the AI Human Rights Trans Forum. I would like to thank all the participants online and on-site. Your commitment to human rights ensures that individual rights are not overshadowed by rapidly advancing technology. So remember to bring your belongings with you. You have the headset for interpretation. Please remember to return them and get your ID back. See you next time.